If you've ever missed someone who's still alive, someone who simply drifted out of your life, this story is for you. It wasn't death that took them. It was something quieter. Time, distance, unspoken words, maybe even pride. And now they live somewhere else. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They have a birthday you still remember, a favorite song that still catches you off guard, and a silence that feels louder than any goodbye you ever heard. This isn't the kind of grief people make space for. You don't get sympathy cards for someone who chose to leave. There's no funeral, no closure, no explanation. Just the echo of a voice you still wait to hear. And so, you find yourself remembering them in strange places. The grocery store, a parking lot, an old photo tucked into a drawer you forgot to open. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever missed someone you're not allowed to grieve? A person who's still out there, but no longer part of your world? If you feel comfortable, share their name in the comments, or a moment, or a feeling. Even if it's just a sentence, this space was built for people like us. People with stories that still linger in the quiet. Her name is Clara. She's 68, lives alone in a modest house on the edge of a quiet town. She wears soft sweaters, keeps her garden tidy, and still writes thank you notes by hand. But every Sunday morning, there's a pause in her routine, a space she still leaves open. Because once upon a time, that was when her daughter used to call. Same time. Same soft, "Hi, Mom." No matter what was happening, Clara would stop everything just to hear that voice. But one year, without warning, the calls began to change. First, they came late, then not at all. 1 week turned into 2, then into months. No fight, no blow-up, no dramatic ending. Just a silence that slowly stretched into absence. Clara asked once, then twice, wrote letters, left voicemails, sent cards, some with humor, some with hope. None were returned. And still, every Sunday morning, she waits. She prepares the same cup of tea, sits by the phone, and tells herself, maybe today. What hurts isn't just the silence. It's the not knowing. The endless loop of wondering what went wrong, what changed, what she didn't see, because her daughter is still out there, still living, still posting photos with friends, beaches, birthdays, brunch, but never with her. Clara doesn't want pity. She wants presence. And the heartbreak of being erased without explanation has no word that fits cleanly in the dictionary. It wasn't always like this. Clara and her daughter, Emma, used to talk every day. Not just about big things, but the little ones too. What she made for dinner. The strange neighbor. The way her garden was blooming early that year. Emma would call on her way home from work, sometimes exhausted, sometimes distracted, but always with a warmth that made Clara's whole evening feel lighter. They'd laugh, disagree, share opinions on things neither one of them could change. But there was love, steady and visible, even in the silences. Clara still remembers their last real conversation. They talked about soup, split pea. Clara had made too much and offered to freeze some for her. Emma laughed and said, "Mom, I live 2 hours away. You can't keep feeding me like I'm still 20. Clara chuckled. But she saved the soup anyway. It sat in the freezer until it frosted over with time and silence. There was no fallout, no betrayal, just space, growing one day at a time. Clara wonders if it started with a missed text, a misunderstood comment, a change in priorities she never got to see up close. Sometimes relationships fade not because of cruelty, but because life gets loud and distance gets comfortable. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt less. Clara doesn't cry about it anymore, at least not often. Not in the way she did those first few months when the silence still felt new. Now it's a different kind of pain, the kind that settles quietly into the rhythm of everyday life. She still sets the table for two sometimes, though she only eats on one side now. She still buys her daughter's favorite tea, Earl Grey with vanilla, and keeps it in the cupboard, sealed and waiting. Once in a while, she walks past a mirror and catches herself looking older than she remembers, and wonders if Emma would even recognize her now. The hardest part isn't the absence, it's the habit of remembering, of still saving stories to tell someone who may never ask to hear them again. There are no anniversaries to mark this kind of loss. No memorials. No ceremonies. Only the slow erosion of hope against time. I want to ask you something. Have you ever missed someone you weren't supposed to miss? Someone who walked away slowly, without drama, but left a hole as wide as the sky? If you feel safe, you can share in the comments. Their name, a habit you still hold on to, a moment you wish you could revisit. You never know. Someone else may be carrying a silence just like yours. And this space, right here, was made for you both. Every Sunday night, after the phone doesn't ring, Clara takes out a small notebook. The cover is worn, the pages smell like old paper and lavender. Inside, she writes a letter to Emma. She's never sent one, not in years, but she writes them anyway. "Dear Emma," they always begin. Sometimes she talks about the garden, the strange dreams she had, the neighbor's dog who keeps digging up her tulips. Sometimes she writes things she never had the courage to say aloud, like how proud she was when Emma got her first job, how much she misses hearing her laugh, and how sorry she is for whatever she said or didn't say that might have led to this space between them. There's no blame in her letters. Just echoes, gentle echoes of a bond that still lives quietly in her handwriting. She folds the pages neatly, places them in a wooden box in her closet. It's not a shrine, not an obsession. It's a ritual, a way to keep the thread connected, even when the fabric has fallen apart. Emma's birthday was last month. Clara remembered, of course. She always does. She bought a card. Simple, with blue forget-me-nots on the front and gold script that read, "I hope you're happy wherever you are." She didn't write much inside, just her name. Her real name. "Love, Mom." As if it might feel less distant that way. She stood at the mailbox for a long time, card in hand, unsure. And in the end, she didn't send it. She placed it gently in the same box with the others. That night, she made a cup of tea and sat by the window. The same one where Emma used to press drawings against the glass when it rained. And just as she brought the cup to her lips, the doorbell rang. Her heart skipped, not because she thought it was Emma, but because for a split second, hope woke up. It was just a delivery, a box of groceries. She signed for it with a soft smile and closed the door. But the moment stayed with her, because that's what grief does. It turns ordinary sounds into question marks. Clara still dusts the guest room once a week, the one with the faded quilt Emma used to love. She opens the window, lets in the breeze, straightens the pillows as if someone's coming. No one is. Not anymore. But rituals don't require an audience, just memory. Sometimes she finds herself rehearsing what she'd say if Emma showed up tomorrow, what she'd ask, what she wouldn't. She's practiced apologies she's not sure she needs to make, and forgiveness Emma may never ask for. There's a strange grief that comes with loving someone who's still alive, but unreachable. Because you can't bury hope. You can't close the book on a story that hasn't ended, but stopped being written. And it's in that pause, that limbo, where grief quietly grows. You water it with what-ifs. You feed it with silence. And still, you call it love. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Not the ending, but the not ending, the waiting, the wondering, the aching between two people who once knew everything about each other's lives, and now don't even share a weather report. One evening, after folding the laundry, Clara sat on the edge of her bed and looked at an old photograph. It was Emma, at 17, standing in a field of sunflowers, arms wide open, smiling at the sky. Clara traced the edges of the picture with her fingers and whispered, "I hope the sun is still finding you." She doesn't carry anger. Not anymore. That left years ago. What remains is a quiet kind of faith. A belief that people change and hearts soften, even in silence. "I keep hoping," she said once to her neighbor, "because that's what mothers do, even when the door stays closed." And maybe that's what keeps Clara whole. Not the memory, not the longing, but the decision to keep loving anyway. Because love, the real kind, doesn't need reciprocation to exist. It just needs room, a little sunlight, and a heart willing to hold space for someone who may never walk back through the door. If this feels familiar, if you've ever chosen love, even when it left you unanswered, you're not weak, you're not lost. You are simply someone who knows how to hold on without holding tight. Clara still writes, still dusts, still waits in her own quiet way. Not because she expects a knock at the door, not because she believes in fairy tale endings, but because love, real, enduring love, leaves a light on, just in case. There's strength in that, not the kind that gets applause, but the kind that keeps you going, day after ordinary day. She doesn't talk about Emma often anymore, but if you ask her, she'll smile and say, "She's still my daughter, no matter what." And in that sentence lives a whole world of ache, resilience, and unconditional grace. If you've ever loved someone who no longer loves you back, or maybe can't, you are not invisible. Your story matters, even if they never read it. If this video brought up a memory, a name, a silence that you still carry, you're welcome to share it below. There's space here for grief without graves, and love without replies.